The most common question for us nowadays is probably something like, which day is it today? And then we're taking our cell phones, computers, or looking at the wall, and we open our calendars, and then we answer. Well, you know, calendars are taking very important place in our life. Moreover, just imagine your life without a calendars. How would you plan anything? Would you be like, oh, let's meet 60 days from now? And then how would you actually count those 60 days? Cutting the wall, or, like people from the island? Well, then let's think realistically. Every day we see calendars, every day we use them, but we never think, when did they originated? How do they work? And all those questions we may have sometimes, but we never Google them, and we never may ask them. But in order to answer all those questions, I Googled them for you. I read the literature, and with some references to articles and journals, I'm ready to explain you. What are the calendars? What do they measure? How long ago were they invented, or how long ago were they in use? And where were they used, and where are they used, and how did we come to have the calendar as we have it now? So just bringing to you an example of a calendar from far, far away and from long ago, obviously, which is not one and the same thing, but more than 500 years ago, Egyptians had their calendar. I'm sorry, actually it's more than 2,500 years ago. And why would the calendar be important for Egyptians? What did they have to measure? And as you may know, calendars may be used for some reasons. First is the one I'm gonna tell you about. Let's think of the geography. You may say Egypt, and it is crossed by the river Nile. And once in a while, the flood happened. And usually, it happened once in approximately 30 days. And then Egyptians came up with a, graphic for a river. When does the flood happen? And so they invented a calendar. And calendar even was called that way because calenda means in Latin first day of a week. And that was the first use of a calendar to predict some weather or something. And the floods are caused by the gravitation, and the gravitation is affected by moon and moon cycles, and that's what we call moon-oriented calendars. The other type are the solar calendars. Right now, the one we used is the solar and moon calendar, more familiar to us as a Gregorian calendar. Well, shortly about Gregorian calendar. It was accepted after its predecessor, and it was accepted in 1,500 years, and it was introduced to us by the Pope Gregory. That's why it got its name. And it wasn't first accepted in all the countries, just the Catholic ones. And by the way, one of the last countries to accept the calendar was Britain. And when it got accepted by the government, the people, the Sosum, they got out in the streets. They had riots, and outside of the parliament the streets were flooded, and that happened because the people were angry that 11 days were gone from the calendar. Okay, backing up. Do you know why did that happen with 11 days? Because as you may know, in our calendar nowadays we have 30 days in a month, and certain quantity of days in a year, and every few, like 4 or something years, we have a leap day. And the leap day is something like an extra day in a month. And so what happened was, in the previous calendar, the Julian calendar, things got a bit messed up, and after a while, we got a whole 11 extra days in a year. And so in order to prevent that, we had to accept a new calendar. Well, not all the countries accepted the calendars, and there was even a case when a battle was lost because of the calendars. Because one side, the friendly ally of two countries, they had different calendars. And so when they decided to meet on a date and to begin their, war actions, they didn't meet. And so that's why one side of one country was defeated, and then the other one was defeated, because they weren't coordinated. And so what is important in our nowadays life is to always have a calendar to coordinate. Thank you.